Meme coins are obviously one of the big pillars, a way that normies feel like they can get rich.
I will tell you, I've never seen anything like it.
Is the craziest I think I've ever seen.
We were thinking about what are other things that get relatively rich on quick.
This is Anil, and he runs the top research firm for some of the largest crypto hedge funds and investors in the space. Now, even though most of the attention is on meme coins right now, I wanted to get his opinion on which sectors, which coins in crypto would benefit the most if that attention starts to shift. Whether it's AI coins, new protocols launching, the best airdrops to watch out for, or the next big crypto gaming play, we cover it all in part 2 of this Stacks podcast episode with Anil from Delphi Digital. I think that a lot of them are also playing that same game that you just talked about, meme coin focus, Solana focus, and that's kind of the best game in town. So why think about anything else? I do think there's probably quite a few people though that are full-time crypto, and we're trying to figure out, like, is any money going to flow back to the real stuff? Is there a reason to look at other things? And one of the things that you noted with your friends is, like, none of them are farming Eigen or Athena. No one's really thinking about DeFi. No one's thinking about what everyone's been investing in and building for the past 5 or 6 years. Yeah. And so I want to contrast, like, what we just talked about with, like, some of the ideas that you think should maybe get more attention. But I guess to wrap up the last thing with the normies, no one talking about Eigen, Athena, DeFi, nothing there.
Yeah, nothing there. And I think, like, so we just had a bunch of the analysts across Delphi. So from our research division, our labs division, ventures division, we had like a mini retreat. We had a lot of conversations about this. The way that we're thinking about it is, so like, we're obviously, you know us, we've been like deep in DeFi, like since early days. We've obviously consulted for a lot of these protocols. DeFi is very like close to our, DNA, just because like come from TradFi, and I think it kind of like underpins this whole kind of like ecosystem. And we were kind of like talking about why is DeFi so boring relative to everything else, right? And I think the answer is kind of like twofold. One is on like the supply side, on like what's being built. Basically, you get diminishing returns to innovate. And what I mean by that is, like, all the extra effort that you have to do to like actually innovate in DeFi doesn't get compensated as like that much more relative to doing things like copy and paste across different chains and other protocols and stuff like that. And also, like, the amount of, the effort that you need to copy and paste protocols is like so much quicker, right? You can do like a couple of copy and paste in like a couple months, rather than, actually innovating and kind of like sticking your neck out there will take potentially years, right? So I think that's like one part of this. And then two, it's like, we're obviously, big fans of like Aave synthetics, and we've been working with them for a while, but like these normies, these crypto curious people, they're not going to find it 100x in DeFi. It's going to be very hard to find 100x, right? Like, they're not going to 100x off Aave and synthetics from here, most likely anytime soon. Whereas like something like a Whiff and Bowden and stuff, they can immediately multiply their money. So I think that's like that's one part that we talked about at the retreat, which was like, all right, if meme coins are obviously one of the big like pillars, a way that normies feel like they can get rich, which is the main reason they're coming into the space, right? They don't really care about the ethos that we all care about, and kind of we're trying to drive home here. We were thinking about what are other things that these kind of like normies or crypto curious people could get relatively rich on quick. And I think it came to two other things other than meme coins. It was like obviously airdrops, and I think Solana is a great airdrop chain because you don't need all this capital. And then there's a lot of other airdrops that are happening now where you don't even need capital, like we're investors in IONET, and we've been talking to the Grass team a lot too. These things you don't even need money on to kind of like farm and get like potential airdrops in the future. So that's another kind of like pillar, I'd say. And then the third one I think is like, and it kind of goes hand in hand with what I was just talking about, is like DePIN. And I think that this is another thing that Solana can kind of like really benefit from. I think this is actually really healthy for the market where, say, and it doesn't have to be like, totally siloed by any means, but say Solana generally becomes this like, meme coin and like DePIN chain for this cycle, right? And Ethereum is where like a lot of like the DeFi and everything else is like continues to like build, especially with how much money is kind of like at hand there. That's actually like, I think, a good way for crypto to play out near term in my mind. And I think like obviously airdrops will happen on both chains, but I think for normies, like obviously Solana will probably be the most beneficial. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of like how that plays out. From our side, yeah, we're investors in Eigen. We're big investors in Athena as well. So we're very bullish on it. But it's important to kind of like take in mind, like a lot of these products that are being built, a lot of the times they're kind of, and we're happy about it, et cetera. And I think a lot of this innovation is going to be helpful to onboard other people into crypto. But a lot of the times these like products that are being built are just continuously going to make people who are in crypto and crypto native and like always on crypto Twitter, like generally online, richer, and not really bring new entrants in and kind of help, help some like kind of wealth transfer there. Looking back last cycle, obviously we're big fans of Axie, investors, and kind of help the team there. I think Axie was like a really special moment where it was a place where it brought a huge wealth effect to people in the Philippines who were not involved in this market before, right? And I'd love to see more of that, because the cool part about it is basically everyone who was playing Axie last cycle has stuck around and is now participating in other ways, not just like gaming and stuff this cycle. And I think you continuously need to do that, so it's not just like a huge concentration of wealth in any one area. So yeah, it's something we think about a lot, and I think, Deepin might be like a narrative that kind of like helps with that.
3 more I want to run down on just thinking, instead of like what everyone knows what people are looking at today. It's meme coins, it's Solana, but like what else, where's the puck going to go, right? Like how can people position themselves or maybe get ahead in the attention narrative market? With Solana being such a focus, Base is probably the close second in terms of attention. A lot of people talk about Base season, what's going to happen with the Friend Tech airdrop and Coinbase and normies coming into the market. I want to get your take on, is there a third or a standout like other L1 or L2 that you think deserves a ton of attention? I know that Avalanche has been trying to support memes with their foundation. I know some people, Mantle just had a big day yesterday. I know they have some big things planned. So is it like Mantle? Is it Arbitrum? Like what? If you had to name one or two of them, you don't have to like pick I'm not expecting you to pick a 10X that people should go buy today, but like where can they start thinking if Solana and Base are the narrative now, what's going to be what's something that they can start looking at, getting interested in, buying, where they're ahead of the crowd?
I think like what Arbitrum's doing with their like Orbit and like L3s is really interesting. To be honest, within our team, we were kind of like torn on the L3 thesis. We thought it was just going to be another buzzword and like infra for infra's sake, right? But I had a good conversation with one of my buddies at Coinbase, Ryan Yee, who kind of like helped change my mind on kind of like what I think will play out here. I think when L2s were started, everyone kind of expected millions of L2s, right? Like that was kind of like the meme or kind of thought. What quickly developed was, and I think you're still going to have a lot of L2s, right? But like really they're going to be maybe like a dozen or two, right? And so far you've already seen that, and each of them are kind of like going about it in a different way, right? Like Base is obviously like Coinbase is L2, Arbitrum, you can say is like the DeFi L2, Optimism is like the Vibes L2, right? Blast is the DGen L2, so on and so on. Immutable is kind of like the, and Ronin or like the gaming L2s, whatever. I think L3s are maybe where you see that millions of like L2 kind of thesis play out. I don't know if you saw this, but I'm a big user of like Farcaster and Warpcast, and been a fan of DGen for a while now. Because it is a meme coin, but it's also like has utility and virality built into it, right? Where it kind of like is able to be tipped. And Dracula just launched using Farcaster's protocol, and they integrated DGen, and I think you're going to see more and more of that. DGen just launched their own L3 using one of our Porco syndicate actually, and I was just reading into it. I haven't had enough time. I'm actually going to do a pod with those guys next week, but it's super interesting to me. And so what was cool about this is like, all right, it launched on Optimism/Base, and it uses Arbitrum's Orbit L3 to kind of like launch it. And I think you're going to see a lot more of these for games, for other, potentially DeFi, for NFTs and things like this. So I think this is like a narrative that you want to start thinking about and looking into, because I think it will start becoming top of mind in the second half this year.
All right, so we have that. I was curious on your take there. There's just such a it's Solana and Base, and then it feels like a big drop off. So I know a lot of people are kind of wondering that exact same thing. Second one of the 3 is crypto and AI. And this is the first year where obviously some external traditional market stuff is playing a big role here with just how much AI companies and AI interest mainstream is exploding. But we also have Tau is a new top 50 coin. We really only have like a couple others that I think are like well known, right? Near, I guess, is people view as like an AI L1. You have Render, which is like a decentralized NVIDIA play, kind of supporting, like some of these get a little bit blurry on like, is this actually an AI coin? I'm curious though, like you don't have to pick a token or anything, but what are your general thoughts on AI and crypto? Is this just strictly driven from the hype and mainstream, or like what's thoughts there?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I have a lot of thoughts on this. And to be honest, I kind of like lean more of the camp of like, all right, no one's going to understand AI. This is just going to be a thesis and narrative. AI is almost like its own kind of like meme coin, right? Yeah. And I think like, if you look at like the mid curve, people think like left curve is kind of like meme coins and right curve is AI. I think it's potentially like flipped, right? Like, and you've kind of seen that in the last like few weeks where like meme coins have been like the right curve, and AI has been kind of left curve, and both have been doing really well. And honestly, I kind of think like the point is, and I think this is going to be true for most of the projects building in AI. It's like people aren't no one's like an AI expert, right? Most of the people in crypto are not, right? And they'll pretend to be. And I think if you pretend to know too much about this stuff, you're gonna kind of like mid-curve it. And essentially like probably like invest in the wrong projects. For me, I do, transparently hold Tau. I do hold like Near, mostly because of, I think it's good like AI exposure. One of my big AI bags, it has been Prime too, because I think it's like sits in the intersection of gaming and AI. I think that's a good one. And I think what their game is actually pretty interesting. And how they've been building it. My mind kind of changed in the past few weeks. One of our analysts, Michael Rinko, he wrote this really good report on like the intersection of AI and crypto, and it's called the real merge. And by the way, like I don't know, who's a Delphi member, who's not, but like if anyone's listening to this and says, "Hey, I listened to your podcast with Luke," and DMs me on Twitter, I'll give you that report for free, and we'll keep it between us. But like, I highly recommend reading this report because it like helped me start realizing that there is going to be not just there's going to be two parts. I think there's going to be a huge narrative where, as you see things with like OpenAI and they get censored and everything like that, it's just going to constantly bring AI into the news, and things like BitTensor and others are going to benefit off that because they're going to be able to be like, hey, we're not going to be decensoring this. We're doing this in more of a decentralized way. Two, and by the way, Tom and John on our ventures team have gone like really deep in AI in the past few months, to the point where like I actually like really respect their opinions and think that they have like a really good grasp on how this is going to play out. And it's really cool to see some projects that are building that I expected basically most of the space to be vaporware, at least in the interim, right? Yeah. It seems like a lot of like actually smart projects are being built where they're going to be competing on how OpenAI is built and how people are kind of like, not only scraping data, but like what data they can scrape. And doing this in a decentralized way helps bypass certain restraints that maybe OpenAI and other kind of centralized GPTs and LLMs are going to have to, go through. So I think like there's going to be a huge opportunity here. I personally think that like everyone should have some AI exposure because I do think it's going to be like a narrative this cycle that, like something like DeFi, which again, I'm a big fan of, has a ceiling, right? And maybe a high ceiling, but it has a ceiling at some point where based off the, cash flows, based on the revenue it's earning, you can kind of like map on like, okay, this is maybe overpriced, this is underpriced. With AI, at least this cycle, I really doubt that you're going to have any type of ceiling. You have Sam Altman trying to raise like $7 billion, right? Yeah. You have like that A16Z and Saudi fund trying to raise like $3 trillion. It's those numbers are massive. The AI market share of total crypto market cap is going to be a number that goes up during this cycle. So you want to have some type of allocation there.
It's funny you mentioned the Sam Altman raise. I think that, I don't know if a headline covered it wrong or if he really said this, but I saw a headline, this must have been early 2024, that he was trying to raise trillions with a T. And that was like my one good AI trade was I looked at WorldCoin, which is like an identity thing, not really doing anything AI. I was like, yeah, kind of AI related. Maybe people like it right after he raises trillions. And yeah, like that obviously ripped. I sold way too early, of course, but it's just funny how like trying to be too smart about any of the AI stuff, I'm glad you said that, I think will lead to people mid-curving. And I feel like I even mid-curved that trade of like, I should have just believed like AI, people are going to love AI. There's no way to value it. It's going to go up. It's fun. It's just, It's funny. That's like the world. That's the smartest way to play it, even though it seems like the dumbest.
No, for sure. Like I'm not even close to an AI expert at all, right? I'm barely an AI user. Like I'm using these things and I'm probably not even using it in the best way possible.
Sure.
I don't believe this cycle I'm gonna be like my knowledge is gonna become anywhere close to like where I can kind of like make educated and informed decisions on it.
Yeah.
So when I'm allocating a certain percentage of my portfolio, and this kind of goes back to something maybe like tying it back into meme coins, like one of our analysts on the venture side, Duncan, he's Flood Capital on Twitter. I think he's a great follow. He's super upset, and like he was getting super upset at how so many people were investing in meme coins. He just thinks it makes no sense, and it was like actually led to a lot of fun debates. And I think he made a really great point during one of like the conversations we were having, which was like, all right, you guys are right on WIF, you guys were right on Bowden, you guys were right on MAGA, etc. But like how based off like what conviction could you have to go in with size there? Like why are we discussing this when you can only toss to 5% of your portfolio, maybe 10% of your portfolio in some of these early in cash fees, right? If you're throwing 1-2% in and it goes 10x and becomes 10-15% of your portfolio, that's still a great win. But for him, he really likes spending his time on finding plays that he can sink 15-20% of his portfolio in and be comfortable, right? And be kind of like be able to sleep at night. Whereas he thinks that you can't like reasonably do that in meme coins. I think that is going to be the hard part about like the AI conviction. And I found this myself where I probably undersized what, I got good like prime, bit sensor bags and stuff too. But like, if I truly understood it, I probably could have gone in with more conviction and probably sized more properly. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I'm really grateful to like people on my team, like Tom and John and even Rinko, who have been spending a lot of time to like kind of get educated. And I think the best thing they're doing, which is, kind of like the way that Delphi really, has started with this like hive mind, is like, we've just been talking to a lot of the best founders and people that we think know this space really well and getting their ideas. Tom started this kind of like secret AI Telegram group where like now he gets a lot of like great conversations going. He's learning at light speed now because he's learning from others. I think that's the best way to learn. So if you're bullish on a specific sector, obviously the best way to learn is just surround yourself with people who are educated about that sector, who are trying to learn more about that sector. I think AI is going to be one that you can't kind of like ignore this cycle.
All right, last big one that I want to get in terms of like discrepancies where people maybe could or should be focusing versus on what they're looking at now. You mentioned this earlier as Axie Infinity. And this one's a fun one to bring up because it was a call with someone at Delphi who led me to one of my biggest wins last cycle, which was Axie. I was on a call with Ian. He told me it was way before Axie like took off, but I think I had him on the show to just talk about like their user growth, how developing nations, how they had so many players that were earning X amount of money, how the revenue was like more than we've really ever seen for an app, and gaming, which we'd never seen a game be outside of like what people are doing on Twitter and the types of people that think like CryptoPunks are cool. Like we had never seen a game capture mainstream. I was like, all right, dude, if this makes a ton of sense to me, I'm in. I even got a couple of my real life normie friends in. They never figured it out. They were like, dude, this is like Pokemon. I was like, dude, just buy it. Just buy it. And it turned into a nice win for them too. So I have a soft spot for Delphi's gaming picks, your guys' knowledge in this space. What have you seen, if you've seen anything in the gaming space? I haven't seen anything take off yet. And it's so surprising given that we had an Axie last cycle. I was kind of waiting for tons of teams to drop these new play to earn iterations or these new, that's kind of the buildup I was waiting for of like, now we have the next thing. I haven't seen it. Like,
no, it's a great question. I'll probably do a thread on this sometime in the next few weeks. Cause like basically in Q3 or Q, so essentially at Delphi, we do this thing every quarter and we just did that at this retreat. We call it Shit on Delphi Day. So basically the whole point of it is like, you don't say anything good about Delphi on this day. You only shit on us. And it basically helps us figure out where we can improve, where we can get better. And it's a big part of like our DNA, to be honest. And we had this day in Q3 last year, I think it was Q3. And we kind of like, we're like, all right, we're going to have a Shit on Delphi Day. And the focus on this Shit on Delphi Day is only to talk about our gaming portfolio and kind of like our gaming team, right? And honestly, like I'll be transparent myself, some of the other partners, shout out Jose. I mean, me and Jose were probably the two that were kind of like most bearish. We were just like, man, we have over allocated the games, right? Like, and we were kind of like, we were really like thinking about like, man, our rate of kind of like deployment in games, and like if this was the right sector to deploy as much as we have been deploying. So we still believe in the narrative, but we're like, man, like, should we wait to see if some of these play out before we kind of like allocate more? And, you know, shout out Jan and Pierce, and Jeremy P on the ventures team too, but Jan and Pierce especially, they came prepared. So on this shit on Delphi Day, they not only, you know, came prepared with their own notes, they brought a bunch of our gaming porcos. They brought basically all of our gaming porcos, and they had them do presentations to us on like, not only what they were working on, but where they were currently at, and then what problems they were facing. And this was probably the shit on Delphi Day that we had the least to actually shit on, which was funny because myself, Jose, we thought this was going to be the day that we just like let it rain. You know, we were just gonna go in. Yeah, like the, you know, like Ari Gold and like Entourage with the, you know, gun. And man, like it was, it made me super bullish in Q3, which is like, you know, I think now gaming is definitely turned. You see things like Prime and Mavia doing really well, etc. But yeah, it really kind of like made us very optimistic on kind of like where games are going to be this cycle. Not next cycle. I think like this cycle, you're going to get some breakthrough games.
Interesting.
And all of them are kind of like tackling it in different ways, whether it's some are going mobile, some are going very crypto native, some are building infrastructure for that too, right? Maybe some I can shout out just since you did ask is like, and by the way, these are basically all Delphi bags, but I'll kind of try and be clear. But like, you know, Mavia is obviously one that you guys have probably seen King chilling, shout out King. That one's like a really cool one where, you know, Jan, you know, one of my partners, he was like super deep into Farmville when we worked at Bloomberg and Deutsche Bank together. So when this team came to us and said, hey, we basically want to build more of a crypto native Farmville where the crypto component is kind of abstracted, right? And this app is actually already out on the app store. I know because a lot of, you know, the Delphi gaming team has been spending way too much time playing it. It's apparently very addicting.
They're working. They're working.
Yeah, they're working. Yeah, they started clans and stuff too. They've missed certain ICs because they've had to go to war or something like that. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. Yeah, that one I think is like really interesting because it's already out there. They had like hundreds of thousands of downloads. And what I'm excited to see is the retention there. The cool part about it is, again, the crypto component is abstracted away. Over time, that will kind of come where they get like certain points, NFTs, and things like that. But right now, it's just like another variation of Farmville with its own kind of like own distinctions, right? Another one that I think is cool is Hytopia. This one is probably not talked about enough right now. Their testnet's coming soon. This one is kind of like more so like a variation of Minecraft, but like in a decentralized way. And I think this one could be that this team has a lot of experience with building Minecraft. They kind of got shut down, a really cool history. I'm pretty sure Pierce or Jan either did a pod with them or will be doing a pod with them, but highly recommend like, you know, learning more about their history. I think that's gonna be a good one. One that I think people on crypto Twitter have seen is gg.xyz. This is kind of like in-person, like Pokemon Go type game. It's starting in New York first, but it's going to come to other cities. I'm really excited to see how that plays out. I think it's a very ambitious project, and I think their launch couldn't have gone better with all the attention they got. But the hard part is yet to come, right? Again, these are all like very different games, right? One of our other portcos that I'm super bullish on is like Internet Game. They basically built like kind of like a Squid Game crypto game that like did really well last cycle with like people winning like Bored Apes and stuff like that. So the prizes were pretty high. They basically have like Mario Party type games, right? They've been working in stealth on something really exciting that's going to launch this summer. Yeah, I'm really excited about that. I'm pretty sure it's going to launch on Solana or Base. I think they're making that decision now. So Solana Base, if you guys want to talk to them, let me know. I was going to connect them soon. Then maybe, yeah, I think that's like a good array to like give you guys like a little bit of a distribution. But yeah, honestly, I'm super bullish. Honestly, there weren't any games that we invested in that I think our gaming team does a really good job. And again, Jose and I, we came into that call like we're gonna shit on these guys, and those presentations kind of like blew us away. It's like it was in the depths of the bear. So like a lot of these teams had no real like they didn't really have any incentive or motivation to like work that hard, but they were like working as if like the whole world was waiting on them, right? And I fucking love to see that.
That's awesome to hear, because that Axie moment for me, outside of Friend Tech had a similar phenomenon in the past 6 months, but that was one of the first like crypto applications where it was like, this is different. It doesn't feel like crypto. It really ties in a game. You can see how it can really kind of impact total new geographies, groups of people. So I'm kind of waiting to see our next explosion with that. It sounds like we have some in the pipeline. Dude.
And by the way, like I think Axie is like not to be underestimated. I think those guys have crushed what they've been doing with Ronin. They have a lot of games launching. Pixels, for example, has like a shitload of users, right? It's another game on Axie. What's cool is like now, like, and this is the thesis that we had last cycle too, of like Axie has this giant community, and having or owning an Axie is your ticket to this like amusement park. And I think you're going to start seeing that play out too. Big shout out to the Axie team, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I saw one. There was an expensive, because I used to farm those things, so I was like deep in the trenches of different Axies and what traits would make me the most yield and things like that. But I saw there was a pretty rare Axie that they're starting to go for expensive amounts in ETH again.
Yeah, we own like very rare Axies.
I know you have a nice portfolio of them.
Yeah. We're probably never going to sell those things. We actually got asked, we probably should have done it at like near the top of the last cycle by the stuff like Sotheby's to like do like an auction of one or two of our Axies, and we're like, nah, fuck no, we're holding these. Obviously didn't turn out well, but yeah, we're gonna hold those till death, I think.
But yeah, there's Friend Tech was kind of the only other game that's had that, and some people think that as SocialFi. I kind of viewed that as a game. It was one of the most exciting games people had built. But
and Forecaster, I think Forecaster's a game too. I know Lens has been working really hard too. We're investors in Lens, actually, not investors in Forecaster, not investors in Friend Tech. I really like that kind of movement. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see for sure.
I love it. This is awesome. I have a lot of stuff to look at. I'm sure people listening, they're going to keep looking at meme coins for now, but at least now we have a couple ideas if you do want to start venturing out and thinking about where the attention could go next. That's what drives a lot of this stuff is narratives, attention. If you can get there slightly early, you're probably going to print on airdrops. You're going to have a better knowledge what's being built there. And I think that those kind of opportunities are like one or two of those. If you can catch one or two of those, that changes the cycle dramatically for you. So glad we got to go through that in the trenches. If people want to see your actual reports, what you guys are working on, I know they should go to the Delphi portable. Like, what's the best way for them to get set up and check it out?
Yeah. So right now we're running like this kind of campaign where you can get a trial for your first month, like $200. I think it's like a no-brainer. You get access to all our reports. I think any of these reports are going to help you make like potentially a decision that will, multiply, your money. So we're really excited to kind of like onboard more people, because the way that we see our reports is like, we know people, really want to make money, and obviously we're there to drive alpha, but we kind of see it as like a Trojan horse where, hopefully we can like, bait you in by helping you make money. But while reading the reports, hopefully you kind of get bit by the bug and go deeper down the rabbit hole to actually understand why all of us are like super bullish on this kind of like technology and kind of like work, day and night to try and make this happen.
Anil, it's been a pleasure, man. Hopefully we run one of these soon. Maybe start doing a monthly or a bi-weekly, whatever it is. Give people some Delphi alpha and get the actual reports.
We'll love to.
Good stuff.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, cheers, brother.